Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pro AV Today. And one of the things that we see all the time in the AV market is that it tends to be the flashiest, the newest, the coolest toys that get the most attention. But that's not the reality in one specific market, the projection market. Really, it's making more of a resurgence than ever before for a number of reasons. But I wanted to bring on an expert to talk a little bit more about it. So I brought on Richard Hutton from the Sharp NEC Display Group. Richard, thanks so much for hopping on today.
Pleasure to be with you, Ben.
You know, Richard, I mentioned a second ago that projectors really are seeing this renaissance like never before, and in many ways that not a lot of people could have predicted. But what are some of the things driving this renaissance of projector technology?
Yeah, I think what's super exciting about this is a couple of things. And it's funny. So I often heard, oh, projection's going to go away. It's all going to be displays. And you know, this is the sky's falling in. And when you look at the market, the volume, so if you just look at number of products sold, the lower end of the market, so just think your typical high school classroom, university learning space, whatever, or you know, more typically that kind of K through 12 space, those folks were the ones that were really driving the volume. You know, 1 unit per classroom, hundreds of thousands of classrooms in North America, right? That transition to more of a display led, as those rooms have changed sizes and displays have come down in price. I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about is a little bit to do with where the price points are now at. That market is rapidly evolving, and when we look at what we sell into that space, you can clearly see that the sort of sub 5K projector market is taking a bit of a dive. And we're obviously, with our portfolio, we have a super wide portfolio, which is great. We're well positioned to put that display in there, whether that's a you know, a video wall or whether it's several displays in a classroom that's kind of repeated content. We can do that. We can do that at different price points for different applications. So that's certainly happening. But you start stepping up into the 5K and above market, a couple of key things happen. And if you're somewhat aware of the market, you'll clearly know this. The move from lamps to laser has been massive, and maybe that's a huge part of why this sort of resurgence is happening. And we look at the opportunities we have and the revenue that we generate in that space of sort of 5K and above, and even more like 10K and above, because we go from sort of K through 12 bog standard projectors all the way up to digital cinema, you know, to full, you know, cooling, big fans, big auditorium, movie theater kind of applications. So we've got a breadth of product through that range. But that sort of 5K and above, 10K and above space is super exciting. It's growing. The revenue's growing. We're still fully invested into that market. It's a space where you can get really creative. So your sort of standard, I've got a big room, I need to project a large amount of content onto a space at the end of that room, and people are going to sit in that room or stand in that room and engage with that content. There's that sort of stand. Okay, you want bigger, better, brighter. We can do that now. And again, that push to laser has enabled that. And the price points, we were chatting earlier, I said before, if you wanted, you could always get the super high bright projectors, but it would literally cost you the size of a small house to do that. Those price points have come rapidly down. And now we're in that space where it's an affordable, you can look at that as an opportunity. So there's that sort of space. Now the content creation guys go, well, yeah, we want one big space, but we'd like to kind of split it up into sections, and we'd like to put some of the content up here and some over there, and that's going to change. This is going to change static. Now with the control software and the edge blending, projection mapping, we can make any shape. We can put a digital image onto any shape. And we've shown that. If you just go to our website, look at our success stories. For me, the most exciting things about what we do in the projection market is when we're doing things where you normally wouldn't think, oh, that's a projection product. So we've done some work with the Field Museum in Chicago. We've done a case study on that where they have a giant T-Rex in their main auditorium, main hall. We do projection mapping onto, she's got a name, she's called Sue. We do projection mapping onto the dinosaur. We also do some image around the room around that. A couple of years ago, we did a really cool project with the city of Chicago It was part of Illinois' 200th birthday anniversary, where we did, so it was content that was featured on great folks of Illinois, historical figures, and we were projecting their story onto a bank of trees outside the convention center down by the lakeside in Chicago, with some audio running at the same time too. So those are the kind of things where, traditionally you wouldn't have said, well, that's not going to work, or that just sounds crazy. Now it still sounds crazy, but we can do it, right?
Well, Richard, the thing that stands out to me the most is you really talk about some of these enterprise applications is that the barrier to entry is a little bit lower. I would say far lower, significantly lower than it used to be, right? So now we'll say smaller to medium-sized houses of worship or local municipalities that you mentioned, right? Now have an opportunity to have some of these really creative environments at scale. And I'll use this example. I live down here in Dallas, Texas, and one of our local cities calls himself the Christmas capital of America, which, hey, is probably right. But they were able to project on a a city block wide projection map onto buildings, right? And that's something that, you talk about those massive, expensive, cost of a bus size projectors even 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
That wasn't even on their radar 5-10 years ago, but now they have the equipment in-house to do that.
Yeah, and like everything else, so the prices have flattened, the technology has enabled the brightness to increase, and frankly, the size of the unit has got smaller too. So, not saying they're mobile, you wouldn't want to put them in a backpack, but you can do now more creative things. That Christmas town sounds familiar. Actually, we might have played a part in that, because I know we ran some stuff where it was some Christmas content on houses going down a street that was kind of cool too. Yeah, the world's your oyster now. It's that you can put the image anywhere. The technology's there to support it. There's super partners out there from a creative standpoint, and just executing that time, because it's not, sometimes there are weatherproofing things that you have to do and all that kind of stuff. There's a whole ecosystem of great partners out there that can help you with that as well. It's super exciting.
Well, you talk about the partner and integrator communities, and one of the things that you've seen is a hardware manufacturer is that there's a constant need for some level of re-education, right? It's pretty straightforward when you say, okay, we're increasing the lumen count or we're increasing the resolution. But as you start talking about things like weatherproofing and new spec'd out advantages, it's important to continue to educate those markets and those partners. What are some of the ways that you guys are making sure that your partners and vendors and integrators are staying up to date on the latest technology that you guys are putting out?
Yeah, so I think we're so I'll take a step back and just say, and I've been around for a while, and it was always sort of when I've been in sort of technology distribution, reselling, manufacturing for the last 30 years, and when I first got in, this internet thing was sort of very new, and it was this is going to end everything, and it's the death of the channel, because the user will just be able to go click and they'll be able to get things delivered to them, and all you guys in that channel thing you're all old dinosaurs. Some of us might be dinosaurs still, but that's going to rapidly change. And I think what we've seen is even in the last 5 years, right, is a resurgence of understanding the value that the channel plays in getting that technology to the end client, working with them. And it's not just the shipment and the sale and the credit and all that good stuff. And our channel partners do a terrific job of that. It's the overall support. It's all the conversations you have leading up to that sale to make sure it's the right fit. The execution and delivery of the solution, and then what you do afterwards. And I think that's one thing where we feel really strongly at Sharp NEC, that we do a terrific job from the beginning through the life of that product, as far as supporting the end client, the partner that supports that end client through the life of the project. So it's they deliver a terrific value to the end client, and super important for us. And we just think it's the most efficient way to sell our product. We're maybe not me, but we're stock full of like engineers and creative folks, and developing those products, and that takes a lot of brain power. the actual way the product gets to market, the channel partners do that so much better than we could ever do. That's their level of expertise. And again, interestingly, I don't know whether this is a diversion or not, but to go down this little route, the folks that engage with us for training, yes, it's the salespeople, right? They need to know, what are the benefits of this? Who's buying it? Who needs to buy it? Who needs to know about it? And we deliver all that through a variety of ways, not least of which is through those partners themselves, right? We're doing video training. Now we're getting back to doing face-to-face, which is really nice to see. And we deliver that. But it's also the engineering community out there within the channel. So we've done things they don't necessarily want to hear about the selling points. They want to know the technical specs. They want to understand the connectivity, what works with what, and those kind of things. And we've developed this sort of community within a community of design engineers that we work very closely with, and recognize that these guys this is an army out there. We've got some very smart people in this company, but from a numbers perspective, the channel is such a great amplifier for all that. And we do everything from traditional sort of face-to-face video training. We leverage a video platform and load all our training on there, and folks can download that and walk through it. We do CTS renewal classes every chance we get. A lot of those are through our distribution partners and at the sort of usual events, InfoComm and DSC and things of that nature as well. So we're across the board, but we're very dedicated to making sure, and it's hard, there's a lot of noise out there. We've got a lot of competition, and we have to keep that constantly in front just to make sure everybody understands what's going on.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point, right? In that, I actually agree with you. Is we've lived in this world for so long where the channel partner really was the only way to get information, and now you have an end user and a buyer community that's more educated than they've ever been. For better or worse, if you want to say it's a good thing or a bad thing, the reality is that they are. But the challenge that comes with that a little bit too is as our AV communities really branch into newer markets, right? Whether that's education, whether that's IT focused communities, there is a knowledge gap in some of those newer communities that the channel partner really has to take a lot of the burden on. What would you say to channel partners really as they are expanding into some of these new communities? What are some of the ways that you guys are seeing them have to take that burden of training and even market education?
I think it's spread. It's beyond sharp NEC display, right? I think, when I look at our channel community and see the types of businesses and skill sets that they're developing, it's things around. So I guess take a step back. When everything started getting lobbed onto the network, that changed the learning curve for a lot of folks. You used to have your typical sort of corporate end user, you would have the IT department and the facilities department, and those were sort of separate teams. And the facilities department tended to be the AV folks as that technology was developed, because in the old days, well, not too long ago, and still there's a lot of enterprises that run like this, that stuff wasn't on the network. Well, that's no longer the truth, and if it's not there yet, it's going to be like tomorrow. Everything's hanging off the network. So that developed a learning curve for the more traditional AV dealers, and they've all jumped on board, and they've done it in different ways. You can either sort of learn that organically and go say, hey, you three folks over there, you need to go learn about what this network stuff means. What else do we need to know? You can, if you're a big enough company, may you go merge, or you buy somebody that already has that skill set. So it's sort of acquisition or organic, right? But they've all had to do it. And there's this sort of, I've not been involved in AV for that long. Well, I guess my career, probably for the last 10 years, I've been more focused in the AV space. And it was always this sort of separation between AV and IT. Mm-hmm. And it was just, it seemed obvious to me that it's all the same. It's all information technology. This is just, we just deal with a certain part of it. And now you're seeing, so everything's on the network, everything's connected. So now our devices have to be secured. We have to be able to limit access to the control of those devices, especially, everybody's noticed in the last sort of 5-10 years, a proliferation of displays just in general life. I don't care, walking through a shopping mall, grocery shopping, museums, schools, colleges, wherever, hospitals. There are more displays around than there ever were before, and there's a lot more growth to come there. So you have to enable, you can't have everybody just be able to like adjust color or turn something off or on or whatever. And then there's also network, there's delicate information running on that network. You've got to secure that. So a lot of these folks are having to go get certified around security protocols and things of that nature. So it's not I'm not a technical person, so but I see it happening with the folks that I talk to, and the folks that I follow on the socials sort of help me understand this is a real thing and this is happening. And then I'm starting to think as a market person for Sharp NEC, how can we help that? Is there a role for us to help that and put in programs and giving opportunities for folks to learn about those things through our offerings? But it's a very dynamic time for the industry. And as you see, we're in a joint venture. It's Sharp NEC Display Solutions now. It's not NEC Display Solutions or Sharp. It's Sharp NEC Display Solutions. We're in a joint venture with formerly two big companies to create this singular entity. We're seeing that in distribution. There was two huge acquisitions last year with the TD Synex acquisition and now the Exertis Almo acquisition too. And if you look at some of the bigger dealers out there, they're buying folks left and right. It seems like every day I turn the computer on, somebody's bought somebody, and for different reasons. Some of it's geographic, I get that. A lot of it is about skill set and sort of IP and technology that company A didn't have, but company B did, and so they'll go buy that. And now they've got that as part of their ecosystem. But sure, it's fun time right now.
It really is, and one of the exciting things as AV continues to expand into new markets is that we're creating more and more enthusiasts every day, right? The market kind of hit a lull there in the last, it seems like 20 years, where we kind of got a little bit of the same old, right? There wasn't really a changing of the guard, and now as we're stepping into the TikTok trends of the world and Instagram, things like that, people are just more familiar with AV, which is creating more enthusiasts, which is exciting for the future of the industry.
Yeah, 100%. The thing we all carry in our pockets is probably in front of you right now, and it's certainly in front of you that the whole mobile technology as well has had a huge impact. That we can now manage networks from our phone, right? And we can do, using some of the software that we provide with both through ProAssist, which is a projection control software, and Naviset, which is a similar kind of software for our display products. You can control all that from your phone and monitor your network and how the displays are working or the projectors are working. It can all be done remotely now too. So it's super exciting. It's great to see a lot of young folks starting to come in too. I think there was a genuine concern in the AV world that everybody looks a bit like me. From a demographic standpoint, which is clearly a problem. And now we're actually actively doing things to bring younger people in and get them excited about the industry and the opportunities within the industry, and certainly from a creative standpoint. And I think the social platforms have played a huge role in that. If you look what Twitter and LinkedIn and even Facebook, I'm not so worky on Facebook, but even those platforms have sort of driven that excitement for the younger community because they can immediately relate to it.
Richard, I'll stick on that point. And this will be the last question here as we wrap up. What would you say to some of those companies who are a little bit more stuck in, really, we'll call it a pre-digital world? That may not be, the terminology may not be exactly correct, but what would you say to those companies who aren't engaging those communities, who aren't investing in meaningful training and learning, and aren't investing in that next generation? What would your advice be to them?
I mean, it's evolve or die, right? I really believe that. You could argue, if you look in the technology channel, that a lot of businesses early on were family businesses. Everybody worked, in the 1970s and the early 80s. Everybody worked for NCR, Burroughs, or IBM, and the reseller community kind of was born out of those big infrastructure type behemoths, because it was like, well, I know this. I've been the engineer in the Dallas market for the last 10 years for IBM. I could actually have a business servicing the same clients. And they went and did that. And there was a lot of family businesses that were set up. And the smart ones, you know, they're putting their kids through college, they're bringing their kids into the industry and train and making them want to be in the industry. First off, the smart ones are now, they're much more business savvy. Margins are harder to get, quite frankly. You've got to be very astute. These are not the days where just because you can buy and sell a product, you're immediately making 20, 30 points of margin. Those days are long gone. You have to have service and value around that. So those folks have to be better business people. Now, venture capitalist money has come into our market big time in the last 10, 15 years. That's having an impact too, because they're putting people in those positions that maybe have a better, stronger business background. They might not much know or care about the technology per se, but they're stronger business people. That mix is sort of coalescing right now, right? And I think if you're not getting learned about networks and software and applications and looking at the new solutions that are coming up and going to the trade shows and going to see new vendors and talking about new products and what you see down the road, you're not going to be around. The business is just not, you've got to be constantly evolving in this space. And that's, for me, that's what's made it exciting so far and continues to.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Hutton of Sharp NEC Displays. Richard, thanks for your insight. We appreciate you so much for coming on. Thanks, Ben. It's been great. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much. And thank you for tuning in this week to Pro AV Today, where we break down the gear, the people, and the stories in Pro AV. Be sure to tune in next time.